got your Mac guys here on Birds 365, McMullen and McDonald. We are joined by a third very educated voice. That would be Les Bowen, longtime Eagle beat writer, jumps in with us here on Birds 365, who's wearing green today. He's got his Eagle colors on, so you know he's ready to talk to us about the Birds. Les, I want to start here. If you were still on the beat, having to come up with stories every single day, would you by now have cultivated a source at a betting outlet to get updated injury information?
That'd be the way to go, man.
Hadn't thought about that. That was never a part of the calculation when I was a beat writer. At one point, I had a team medical source that was very, very good.
Okay.
I know who that was, Les.
Yeah. But that's a great idea. But I have, before we get too far going here, I have a good story for you. So
please.
My wife and I were in Colorado over the weekend visiting our son, and we flew home yesterday. And this hasn't happened to me probably in a year, 2 years, 3 years.
We got frozen less. I have frozen less. Do you have frozen less?
Frozen less.
We'll see. We'll see.
Right in the middle of his good story. That's because he was coming back from Colorado. I wonder if it was as cold in Colorado as it was in Chicago.
There we go. Now we can't hear Les.
Les is still talking, but we're not hearing Les.
Damn, that was good. That was going to be a good story. He's going. He's still
we'll
telling the story. Yeah,
I'm sure that we'll get him repunched up here. And yes, my first question to him was quasi tongue-in-cheek, because you and I noted in the first segment that it seemed that the bookmakers, call them what you want, odds makers, betting outlets, had information before it became mainstream information that moved the Eagle Cowboy line as drastically as it did. Yeah, it kind of makes it difficult to do the job that Johnny Mac's got to do every day, that Les Bowen did for as long as he did.
Yeah, I don't have that kind of money to pay for that, Jody. Les, we got you.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I'm sorry.
That's fine. You were in the midst of the story. I saw you.
Coming back from Colorado is where we lost you.
Oh, now we have black screen less. We'll get it. We'll get it figured out.
Frozen less and black screen less.
We'll get it. We'll get it figured out.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, real quickly.
Yes.
Flying back from Colorado, and for the first time in years, I was on a flight that had no Wi-Fi. And I try to write some stuff every now and then on a Facebook thing I do called Bowen Sports. And I thought, well, I'd love to have Wi-Fi so that I can do this, I can be up to date on everything that's happening while we're flying, but I can write this anyway, I mean, it's not like anybody got hurt Sunday or anything like that. So I write this thing, while I'm on the plane, and I can't post it because I have no Wi-Fi. And then we land and we're going up to the gate, and I turn my phone on. Oh, okay.
Good thing I didn't post. It's just sitting there in a file that I was about to download.
Well, and Jalen, Jalen talked after the game. We knew he was banged up, Les, but he seemed fine. He didn't seem in obvious discomfort. So
right.
It was a little bit of a blind side. Now, he had x-rays after the game. Then I gave him an MRI and came up with a sprained shoulder. So I want to get your take, because, the Eagles coaching staff is taking a lot of hits today for their game plan in Chicago in a 3-degree wind chill, whatever the heck it was. And I had a problem with their game plan before I knew Jalen was injured, but for a different reason. I think they didn't take into account the weather. I think they were a little disrespectful to the Bears from my perspective. They thought they could do whatever they wanted, which is understandable. They're 13-1. There's a little hubris built in. They think they can do whatever they want against anybody, basically. But I want to get your thoughts on the game plan and where you came down on it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought, John. It reminded me, when he was talking after the game about, Nick was talking about, well, we had these matchups we liked, Andy Reid used to say that all the time. I remember it remember the Carolina NFC Championship game where they kept throwing the ball at Todd Pinkston and he totally unraveled, and was basically handing the ball to the defensive back, and they just kept on and on and on and on, throwing these slants to Todd Pinkston, who was getting manhandled, and they wouldn't stop doing it until they had lost the game and gotten McNabb injured. You had matchups you liked. That's great. But as you said, 3-degree wind chill, you're throwing long all the time. At some point, you need to sort of think, maybe this wasn't the best plan, and they do. You were talking a little before I came on about how, this is part of their offense, Jalen Hurts running, but I think they do sort of reach for the cheat code too much when things aren't working for them. Instead of really adjusting what they do, they depend on him to bail them out. And he does. And he did on Sunday. But they need to be more proactive about that. The fact is, and I'll make another Andy Reid allusion, talking about how strongly built he is and how he knows how to slip the big hits and all. That's exactly what Andy used to say about Donovan McNabb, and it was true until it wasn't.
Yeah,
and
I always go back.
He's not from the planet Krypton. I mean, he can get hurt just like anybody else, and it's irresponsible to run him. And some of it's his fault because of the RPOs, and he chooses to keep the ball. But 17 carries against a bad team is ridiculous. I'm sorry, it is.
Yeah, Zach, you were probably there that day. When Zach Ertz said, if you play this game long enough, the injury rate is 100%. I don't care who you are. He's not Superman. Yeah. And you're right from that perspective. And I thought Matt Eberflus, it was pretty clear. Chicago came into this game, and that was their game plan. We're going to be physical with the quarterback. He took more big hits in this game than he's taken all season. And you add the weather on top of it. I mean, the one linebacker squared up on, not the play he got hurt on. He took the biggest hit.
Yeah.
So I think that was part of their game plan. Be very, very physical with this team in the terrible weather. I didn't like the way the offensive coaching staff handled it. I just have a little bit of a different take. To me, they're so ingrained. And I've said Les and Jody has heard me say this a bunch. They're not pass first. They're not run first. They're Jalen Hurts first. And you can't take Jalen Hurts out of this offense and expect it to be the same.
Oh, true.
Bears, maybe he can. I mean, they're a bad football team, but I think that's a slippery slope when you do that.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is. And it's hard to find the right mix, but
balance. Yep.
It can't be okay. The offense isn't working today. Jalen, go out there and do something, and they devolve into that. They really do, and not a lot. I mean, they haven't. The 2 games before this, they were running up points like they were going out of style. But we've seen this season, where they just can't. Whatever they're trying to do isn't working, and they just rely on Jalen to sort of.
Yeah, the Indy game was probably the best example of that.
Yeah,
he just put the team on his back in the fourth quarter and just.
Yeah, and if you keep doing that, this is going to happen, or something worse is going to happen. What if this was a really bad shoulder injury and he was done for the season? What would we be talking about today?
That would not be good.
It's not a conversation for today, and probably not a conversation until after the Eagles either get beat in the postseason or have a parade. At some point, the conversation's got to turn to, do we want this guy as our quarterback for the next 6 years? And if so, how much are we going to pay him? Because the way that he plays the game does increase the possibility. As John likes to say all the time, and I agree with him, there's luck involved. The Eagles will never allow you to say that, but we know it's true. Injuries, there is a little luck involved, but there's also the ability to lessen the times you are at risk. And Eagles have to weigh that in the decision to handle Jalen Hurts and his contract going forward. But again, that's a conversation for another day. It is supposedly a happy Tuesday down at Eagle Land today. And one guy who can actually probably be pretty happy is Jonathan Gannon. We're sitting here and questioning Sirianni and Steichen on the offensive play calling. The defense showed up again on Saturday. Yeah, the Bears quarterback is a freak of nature. So, all right, he ran for 90 yards. Johnny Mack correctly said, "Ooh, over 75, Jody. You setting the number too low at 75."
Easiest bet of the week for me.
He had that at half.
Yeah.
So he's a freak of nature. We acknowledge that. And no defense has been able to just shut him down running. 6 more sacks this week, Les. Yeah. And again, doing so without the quote-unquote blitz. Who the hell cares how many times they blitz if they get 6 sacks a week, 3 guys with 2 apiece? Does Jonathan Gannon have to hold back a smile when he talks to the media this afternoon?
Oh, probably so. I mean, this defense really has solidified as the season has gone on. It's had some ups and downs. There are games where you wish he would adjust more quickly to what the other team is doing. But, yeah, this was real solid. Yeah, the Bears were missing 2 or 3 of their best weapons, and they don't really have great weapons anyway. But, the defensive line has – and I was kind of worried about that defensive line early in the season. I didn't think it was really living up to its billing, but they brought in a whole bunch of new people. And, it's that has definitely helped, I think, adding Sue and Linval Joseph to the mix. Suddenly you're seeing Hassan Reddick romping around free and Josh
Reddick has been great, by the way.
Yeah.
Man. Jody, you were right on that one. I'll give you.
Yeah, the Hassan Reddick thing, I was certainly pulling for him. It's a compelling story. But his career has been so odd in the NFL, especially. Yeah. That was one that I kind of wondered about going into the season, if he was really going to have that kind of impact.
Yeah.
But hey, I was wrong. Yeah, he certainly has. He certainly has had a tremendous impact. And
I lobbied for the Eagles to get him last year. He didn't have to do
Jody was ground floor on a
stop over in Carolina. He should have been here in Philadelphia last year, as a matter of fact. But the Eagles did get him for this year, which is the most important thing. And I know he's a little undersized, but he's physical. Yeah, he might be giving away 10 pounds to most defensive ends, but he plays a physical game. He's one of the fastest guys. If your last name is in Bosa, he might be as fast as anybody else in the National Football League coming off the edge. But he makes physical plays too and separates guys from the football. He got more forced fumbles again this week.
Yeah, and that's a great, if you can do that, that's gold. I mean, that's worth more than sacks to me. Being able to poke that ball out, that's a big deal.
Yeah. What impressed me most about the defense and Jonathan Gannon was not the pass rush, because Jody talked about Justin Fields. Unbelievable. I don't think I would ever say this, but I'm going to say it. I think he's a better runner than Lamar Jackson. He is unbelievable running the football. Never seen anything like it. Boy, is he slow processing in the passing game.
Yeah.
I mean, painfully slow. I mean, he holds on to the football. Now, part of that might be they have bad receivers.
I was going to say, he's waiting for somebody to get open and nobody gets open.
Yeah, but he holds on to the football. So you're going to get a lot of sacks against him. And the Eagles have had that in recent weeks with Daniel Jones as well, Ryan Tannehill as well. I didn't see this coming from Jonathan Gannon. Well, he flat out told me it wasn't coming. And that's Devonta Maddox at safety. Now, everybody came into this game. We lost Les for a second. Can you hear me, Les? Can you hear me?
We might have lost his body.
We might have lost Les. I'll say to you, Jody. Everybody came into this game. Are they going to start Kayvon Wallace at safety, or are they going to elevate Anthony Harris?
Right.
Well, he took door number 3. He didn't do either. This was Jim Schwartz-like. This is out of the box, and I haven't seen this from JG before. So basically, when they went with 5-man fronts, and they weren't concerned with Fields in the passing game, and they shouldn't have been for the reasons I just talked about. So they didn't play a lot of nickel. So when they weren't in nickel, they put Devonta at safety. And when they needed a nickel, they put Devonta back at nickel and let Kayvon Wallace play. I didn't see that coming, Les. I didn't think he had it in him. I mentioned that's like Jim Schwartz out of the box. We don't know what's coming. But that's when Jim moved Devonta Maddox back to safety when he was a rookie. Nobody was like, what are you going to do with safety? And all of a sudden, Devonta's back there.
Yeah, that was slick. I
Yeah.
like that very much.
Yeah.
I was worried. I mean, I don't know how much longer Gardner Johnson is going to be out. Really, I know where his
Got to be the January 1st. That's the first day.
at least until that.
Yeah.
That is a weak spot in their defense, and he did a good job, kind of papering over it against the Bears anyway.
I think we lost Les again. Now, I don't know, Jody, if you can do that going forward, because you're going to need a nickel corner against Dak Prescott. And maybe Reed Blankenship is back this week. There's a potential for that. So maybe you don't need to do it. But it's going to be interesting to see this week against Dallas, because obviously they're more capable in the passing game. So you can't just not play a nickel cornerback and do that same kind of toggling back and forth. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Eagles handle it this week.
But do you really need that extra cornerback against the Cowboys? Because that's why the Eagles are the better team than the Cowboys. I know the Cowboys are now a 6-point favorite. That's mainly because Gardner Minshew is going to be the quarterback, not Jalen Hurts. But I had a Cowboy guy on over the weekend on CBS. They have not come close to replacing Amari Cooper since he left. And they signed T.Y. Hilton, but they didn't activate him for the game this past week. Michael Gallup has been a almost complete non-factor this year. I'm not afraid of the Cowboys receiving core coming into this game. Are you?
No, not their receiving core. Les, you got us now? Are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with our connection, but I am back.
Concerned with the Cowboys passing game and the receivers other than CD Lamb?
Not really. Yeah, CD Lamb is for real. And I guess the tight end is pretty good, but no, not too much. And it's just so richly ironic that the Eagles are going to try to do this with Gardner Minshew when Dallas came in here.
Yeah, Cooper.
And purposely played the backup, even though Dak was probably ready to play. They let Dak start the next week against Detroit, which was not the Detroit we're seeing right now, but the Detroit that nobody couldn't beat anybody. And then use that as an excuse when the Eagles won as well. Yeah, if we'd had Dak, we'd have won that game, So it would be hilarious if Gardner Minshew went to Dallas on Christmas Eve and won. And even if he doesn't, I think it's pretty savvy because this matchup, as much as it's been billed, it doesn't really, this isn't the playoffs. Both of these teams are in the playoffs already. The Eagles only need to eat one of these last three games to get the number one seed. I mean, the Eagles really, the fans need to win this game against Dallas, but the Eagles don't need to win it, really. And, winning this matchup is a lot less important than winning the matchup that you're probably going to see, at some point in January. And, it might be good to save a few cards in the deck, to not have Hurts out there and, give Dallas the backup and see how they handle that.
I want to get back to something John and I were discussing earlier, and you just touched on it briefly, Les, and that's the decision for the game for whatever reasons. John's used the word hubris a couple times so far, which could very well be attributable. How do you just not come in and give Miles Sanders 20 carries in this game? I know that, and this is a question for both Shane Steichen and Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. The Bears can't stop anyone on the run. He's coming off his best game ever as a pro as Miles Sanders, and he doesn't get the football once till 6 minutes left in the second quarter. How does a decision like that come around? John's given us his opinion on why the Eagles went down the road that they did. What would you suggest, Les?
Well, they said they liked these matchups they had on the outside with the receivers. And I guess they were really thinking they would bury the Bears early, get a huge lead and, maybe not take the starters out again like they were able to do the previous few weeks. I would not have done it that way. I would have certainly run Miles Sanders. And also there were those RPOs, and I think Sirianni kind of hinted at this, that maybe Hurts could have handed off on a few of those or more than a few of them and didn't. I don't know what to make of it. I think he certainly should have had more carries. There was talk that the Bears had really stacked the box. Yeah, I get that. But to me, if they stack the box and you want to run, then you just bring in, more tight ends and Andre Dillard as a tight end and stuff like that, and you even up the box. I would have certainly gone more with Miles Sanders against this team. The fact that he fumbled, and I think his fumble was a key event in the game, really making it so close in the third quarter, sort of works against that. But maybe he wouldn't have fumbled if he'd have gotten.
Yeah, maybe if he had a feel for it by that point.
Yeah.
Well, I do think if he hadn't fumbled, this would have been the kind of game we all expected. They were up 17-6 and pulling away. And I think they would have won very, very, very comfortably had he not fumbled, but he did.
Yeah, and it had early. It had a bit of a Washington vibe. Same thing, and the fact that the time of possession was so out of whack in the first quarter. I think the Eagles had the ball for like a little bit over 2 minutes in the first quarter. Because Chicago, they deferred. Obviously, Jody. They won they're back winning the coin toss. They deferred. Chicago went on
by the way, I got a tweet about that. I would have done the same thing as Sirianni did. I got no problem with his decision. My big, and I take a lot of grief for this last because I second guessed the coach. The fact that I think it's by rote. If they win the coin toss, they automatically defer. They don't even contemplate it. It's just a given that they're going to buy into the analytics, which annoys the snot out of me. But there are certainly weeks where the play is to defer. So I don't always say the Eagles have to take the ball first. And I just say you got to at least give it 2 seconds of thought before you make your decision.
Yeah, I'm only pointing out Chicago had the long drive. Now, they didn't score, but they had a pretty long drive on their first drive. And I think they failed to convert on a 4th and 2 or 3 or whatever it was. And the Eagles took over. And then they converted 1 first down on the third play. It was the big pass to Devonta Smith, and then the interception. So it was 4 plays. Chicago got the ball back again. They converted, I think, 2 first downs. Again, they didn't score. Then the Eagles were back, and it was incomplete, punt. And that was it. That was the first quarter. That was it. So they had the football for 2 minutes, essentially. They had the turnover, incomplete in that weather. And that's why I had the bigger issue with that part of the game plan than anything else. They came out, like Les said, oh, we love these matchups. We love – and by the way, Les, A.J. Brown was raving about Jalen Johnson as a player. Kyler Gordon's a very young player. Rookies doesn't get it yet, I don't think, but he had the interception. You can see the talent there. They at least have talented cornerback. Right. I didn't get the game plan. I didn't get it.
No, actually, their rating against the pass was much, much better than their rating against the run. I didn't understand why they liked these matchups so much, other than they just wanted to get the game over with and get out of there.
Yeah,
they clearly showed up.
They wanted to get the 21-0 lead and then just bleed the clock from there. I think that was what they were trying to do. Yeah.
All right, let me get one more complaint on the record here, and I need both of your guys' takes on it as well. Boston Scott had another nice kick return, put the Eagles in outstanding field position. Shame on them that it took them as long as it did to get Boston Scott out there as their kick returner. But I thought when he took it back the way he did, maybe they'd reward him a little bit. He got 0 touches on Sunday. 0. Goose egg. Other than his kickoff return, he did not get a handoff. He did not get a ball thrown his way in the passing game. A 0-touch game for Boston Scott. Last year, in 6 of the Eagles' 17 games, he got double-digit carries. More 10 or more. He has had none this year. No Boston Scott double-digit carries. Why is Boston Scott buried on this offensive chart right now, guys?
Well, you're seeing, Miles Sanders used more, although certainly was this not the case Sunday, but Sanders is carrying more and getting the ball more than he ever has in his career. So that right there is one big reason. And they're using Kenny Gainwell a lot. And I kind of go up and down on Kenny Gainwell. There are times when he makes nice plays. There are times when I wonder, why would you use Kenny Gainwell on this type of play? He's not a power back. He's not a big. He isn't even as powerfully built as Boston Scott, even though they're both smaller guys. I think those are the two. I think he's behind Sanders and Gainwell at this point. He's kind of a role player, and they don't always have a role, but probably they should have Sunday after everything we've spoken about Jalen Hurts. 4 or 5 Boston Scott carries would not have gone amiss to me.
I will say this about Boston. He should have been the kick returner from day one.
Yeah.
I don't know why it took him so long to figure that out. At Les Bowen, follow Les on Twitter, still writing at Facebook there. I know I want to get Les for JAKIB Sports, but I know you need that credential. The Eagles are stingy with credentials, and
they are. Yes.
Les Bowen should be credentialed. I don't think there's any doubt about that, but I'll leave you with this final one, and that's about Gardner Minshew and the fact that this is a really good backup quarterback, Les. I think this is a top 5 backup quarterback, and if you force me to list the top 32 quarterbacks in the world, Gardner would be on that list. So I think he deserves to be a starter in this league somewhere from a meritocracy standpoint. Now, I'm not, he'd probably be bottom 5, but he's not terrible.
No.
Don't give up hope with Gardner Minshew. You agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. If Dallas's defense plays the way it played against Jacksonville last weekend, Gardner Minshew can win this game. Dallas is having some trouble here. Their defense was really fearsome earlier in the season, and they're second overall in sacks, I think, but that's not happening right now. They've kind of run out of gas a little bit defensively, it looks like. I'm not watching their games. I'm reading about, what the reporters there say. But, Minshew is a very capable. We saw him, he played very well. It was the Jets, yes. But he came in. It's very hard to play like that when you don't really play all year. Your timing isn't down with everybody and all that stuff. He'll have a decent week of practice this week to get ready, and I expect him to play reasonably well Saturday in Dallas. And if the Eagles defense does its job, I think he can win this game.
Now, I thought about this last night when I was doing my show on WIP. I thought, hey, at least Gardner can pick up the phone and ask some of his ex-teammates what the issues were with Dallas, because he's a former Jacksonville guy. And then I started to look at Ross. I go, damn, none of these guys even played with Gardner. The NFL is such a turnover league. He just left there last year, and the Jags under Dougie P have pretty much changed the entire roster. So if Gardner's going to get it done, he's going to get it done on his own. We'll see if he does. Les Bowen always gets it done when he comes on with us. Les, appreciate it. Feel free to keep your Eagle green on all day.
Okay, thanks very much, Jody. Take care, guys.
Got it. That's Les Bowen. You're with us on Birds 365. Couple connection issues, but we worked through that. All right. Quick point of view. I'm just going to give you a tease here, Johnny Mac, by asking you a question. The Philadelphia Eagles starting quarterback, not against the Dallas Cowboys this week, but the week after against the New Orleans Saints, will be who? Think about it. I'll tell you, I think it's going to be when we come back. Birds 365, you're on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel.